You're listening to Studio Sessions. My name is Darren Weber, and today we are on the phone with the vocalist of alternative metalcore band Bloodline. We'll be looking at a single from their recently released album Insolent, as well as talking about new music, New Year's resolutions, religion, politics, and much more. Stay tuned.
This is Joseph from Bloodline, and right now you're listening to WKTV, the voice of Keystone College. Lifeless!
One of the songs that we're talking about in the project is your single Lifeless. And it's a heavy song, but it's also got a very heavy message in it from the lyrics. In your own words, what is the meaning of Lifeless?
I wrote that song about my little brother, actually. He died of hypoplastic right heart syndrome, which is like when they're still in the womb, basically, their heart just doesn't develop the right way. So like the left side is really small, but the right side is really big, so it just doesn't pump blood the way it's supposed to correctly. And this happened like, a long time ago, maybe about 15 years ago now. And just kind of something that I've wanted to write about for a long time, something I've tried to write about before and just didn't like come through correctly with other projects or whatever. So whenever Matt and Titus sent me the instrumental for Lifeless, I think we were like about halfway through the writing process for Insolent, and I was just kind of honestly having some trouble finding some subjects that I really felt strongly about, and then they sent me the instrumental, and it was just instant, really. I just kind of knew as soon as I heard it what the song needed to be and all that. So I just kind of wanted to almost not close the chapter really, but have a song that kind of showed my feelings about it and was able to kind of give myself some closure while at the same time kind of telling my story and my brother's story.
And that's the great thing about music is that you're able to kind of have that catharsis, especially with this form of, now you guys are an alternative metalcore band. A lot of people they listen to the music and they think it's just angry and pissed off, but they don't realize that it can be really deep like that. Like you said, I mean, I got to thank you for sharing and being able to open up about something like that. How did writing that song and being able to record it and play it live, how did that help you process through the pain?
Writing it was, I feel like writing it was definitely more of a personal experience, so to speak, of just putting the words down to the paper and then actually recording the song and getting to produce it, and just seeing what's bouncing around inside my head kind of come to fruition was able to help me just kind of it's just coming to terms with reality, really. It's you can't really be upset over the things that you can't change, but it doesn't mean it still sucks. So it was just kind of once you put it out there, put it out loud, it just kind of makes it more real and kind of come to terms with the fact that you can't change it and all that. That was probably the best experience out of it. But as far as playing it live, it's cool getting to play it live and getting to share that with everybody. But I wouldn't say that playing it live has that same weight, because when you're doing it, it's kind of part of the performance and all of that. So I try not to let myself get too caught up in the emotions of it all when I'm up there playing a bunch of different songs that all range of different meanings.
Right. There's a lot of your songs though. I mean Faded Memory, Jaded, a lot of them do have that emotional weight to it. At least that's what I get from it. So it's got to be hard to be able to compartmentalize it all while you're doing it live.
Definitely. I think that's something I've just kind of learned how to do over the years, and compartmentalizing it and kind of just letting it release on stage and doing all that, letting that be the outlet for it, and then just kind of being able to check it at the stage, more or less.
Now, while it's all really emotional, I think there is kind of some positivity within the song. How do you think that this song is positive, and how can it help those who are listening to it?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'd say it's positive in the sense of one of the main things that I talk about in the song comes in the second verse. The line is, "I tried to keep it together for our family's sake, but I lost it all when I saw your lifeless face." So with that, it's even though it is kind of a more of a bummer type line, to me that has some positivity in it, because it's even when, just for me personally, it's kind of in a way almost like a manifesto of even when stuff sucks, I kind of have always felt I'm the one that holds it down, and kind of keeps a level head. So I feel like the positive message in that to other people would be that like even when stuff is going down, like I don't know, like you ever heard like the term like heroes are born through adversity or something like that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Or like kind of like that same message of like being how we handle adversity and go through these difficult times and how we're able to come through it and be at the end of it is really going to speak to our character and kind of just show the world who we really are.
I have to give you credit for being able to do that, not only putting yourself out there, but doing it with all this in mind at the same time. It's great, dude.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So going off of that, what do you hope that in general listeners take away from your band and the music?
Man, I hope if I had to boil it down to one thing, I hope that people could listen to Bloodline and listen to the lyrics and stuff and just come out of it with that mentality of like even when shit hits the fan, like I can still hold it down and I can still be the person that I need to be, you know, man or woman, like it doesn't matter, like whoever you are listening to it, whatever like struggle you're going through, like it's such a corny like cliche thing to say, like, you know, like you're gonna make it through it. I feel like when people say like, oh, you know, you'll make it through it or things will get better, like they're not really, they're just saying like, oh, you just kind of have to like fight through it and at the end you're going to feel better, but it's not ever like a you're going to feel better thing. And you should never want to feel like completely better, in my opinion, because to me that insinuates forgetting about the things that have happened, which means you aren't learning from them. So I guess I would just hope that people could listen to Bloodline and be able to use that as a motivator to take their tough times and whatnot as learning experiences versus letting it pull them all the way down.
I remember when Insulin was released and you guys kind of opened up a question and answer on Twitter. I asked you guys about like your influences, not only with the album itself, but the overall band. And you had some pretty, I don't know who I was talking to at the time, but you had some pretty interesting answers. I know you said like Slipknot and, you know, things that you would expect, but then you also said like Skillet and Thousand Foot Crutch, who are Christian rock bands with like pretty positive messages. Do you think that those influenced your songwriting a bit?
Absolutely, man. It's crazy. So me, Titus, and Matt all grew up going to church, like hardcore. Like all of us were, except for Jake. I think Jake was the only one that has like not really been a church guy. But growing up, like Titus and I and Matt were involved with, you know, youth group bands and writing for our worship bands and stuff like that. And like the first show I ever went to, first live concert, was I went to go see Skillet at this festival called Celebrating Freedom. Like after that, like one of the first heavy bands I got into, what I would consider a heavy band, would be like Thousand Foot Crutch, you know, tons of alternative like contemporary Christian metal. And that was, you know, when we were a lot younger. As we've grown up, our worldview has changed quite a bit, to be honest, all of us. But regardless of our change of worldview, that music, I mean, I still listen to Christian music, even though that's not really my style anymore, just because the music is so good. At the end of the day, like, I may not agree with like the lyrics and stuff that they're saying, but the emotion is still there and the songwriting is still there. And yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of people involved in the, I don't know, I don't want to like call it screamo, but it is what it is, you know, like heavier screaming type music. You think about all the bands that were super influential not even that long ago, you know, 5 to 10 years ago, they were all on the, you know, Solid State Records, Tooth and Nail Records. You'll get Under Oath, Demon Hunter, Impending Doom, like any of these heavy bands that really like formed how the metalcore and heavy music scene is right now and the way bands sound all kind of came from that Christian side of things. So for me, it's just something that was always around and all that. And it's just, you know, just by listening to it has had its effect on the music that we write.
Dude, the whole time you're talking, I've been like, kind of have this big dopey smile nodding, because that was the same thing for me. When you mentioned the festival, I was actually waiting for you to say Creation Fest, because that's where I saw Skillet and Thousand Foot Crutch, Red.
Dude, yeah, Red is like I don't want to say our favorite as a band, but I know like me and Titus are very into Red and like Love and Death.
Yeah, man, they're amazing, and that's the thing. Like a lot of people, they kind of shun them a little bit because they have that, you know, Christian undertone. But like you said, the songwriting's there. Like they're good musicians. It doesn't matter. Like it matters what they're saying, but at the same time, if you don't agree with their beliefs, that's okay. You can still enjoy the music you're listening to. For sure.
And I think even on the lyric and like, you know, even if, like I've said, like it's not your thing or whatever, like you don't believe in God or whatever it is, like you can still take some value away from the lyrics, because it's not like all these songs are just like, oh, praise God, praise God. A lot of them are about the questioning aspect of religion, of, you know, like self-doubt, doubting faith and stuff like that. And specifically like doubting faith, kind of just like the inner turmoil that comes with being involved with pretty much any religion, in my opinion, is still something that I love to write about. Even on our new record that's coming up, we have the very last song on it, like, is 100% like religious based, not like a praise God song by any means, more so a commentary, I guess, on how I view religion. But still, I mean, that's probably going to be something that I always write about, just because it was, you know, part of my life for such a long time.
Now, I'm glad that you actually brought up the new music, because that kind of transition segues into what I'm about to talk about next, and that's the whole fact that it's a new year, new music. What else can you tell me, if anything, about the new album that you're setting to release?
Well, when is this interview going to come out?
This week.
This week? Okay. Well, I guess I can't really give you like a ton of like super detailed information, but like, do have a new CD coming very, very soon, within the next few months. The whole CD will be out. We're going to start putting singles out here pretty soon as everything's like ready to go. Yeah, man, it's like everything's just kind of like fallen into place really nicely. It's honestly like really surreal right now, just because like we put out Insolent and we did the Insolent release tour, and then after that we honestly just kind of were like really burnt out. We were like, man, we just put in all this time writing this record or whatever, and we put that out solo, like no label support, no nothing. It was just us and the money that we could put into it. So it was definitely like, and then going on tour, like the CD came out on tour. It's just like really big financial to do all that, to go on tour and put a CD out all on your own. It's definitely not easy. So we basically took the better half of 2018 off completely from touring, outside of like a few shows here and there. And really it's just been within the past few months that everything's come together really. Yeah, just over the next couple weeks, next like 3 to 4 months or so, I'd say, is whenever we're going to start, you know, just pretty much flooding the internet with content and new songs, album art, pre-orders, all that stuff. So I'm really excited for all that to start happening.
I can definitely see how that tour, I mean, I was going to ask you about that. I didn't think that you guys were signed and you put out that entire album and did that whole tour by yourselves. But you guys nailed it. I mean, I saw you when you came to Scranton, and you guys did great. It sucked because you guys had the whole venue changed. I was like, oh my God, these guys are never going to come back here.
Oh yeah, dude, that's when it got moved to the open mic night.
Yeah, when it got moved to like that small hole in the wall pub down the street.
Yeah, that was crazy. There was this guy outside that show that was like yelling at us, so I started throwing pennies at him.
Dude, I remember that. I was actually on my way out. I stopped by. I was talking to Loser at their merch table, and then he kind of came up, and I felt bad because I was like, well, we're going to go now. And then this dude just was like, oh, you guys a band? You know, that typical thing. So I was like, oh, man, I feel really bad leaving these guys with one of these dudes.
No, that's all right. We get a kick out of stuff like that. That guy was just some drunk asshole, so.
It was crazy. But yeah, like I said, you guys did awesome. I mean, I remember you were able to do the backtracks and everything. Matt set up his drums. Like, you did well with what you had, and you guys killed it. I remember going up to you after the show, and I was going to tell you, I was like, I think I was halfway through the sentence of like just showering you with praise, and you just gave me a big hug, and I was like, all right, that's cool. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, man, that show was wild. We actually run into that like happening. Not that show specifically, but what happened at that show, with it being just like a last second change where they're like, yo, we're going to this other venue that's not as good or whatever. And, you know, they don't really have like necessarily all the stuff that we would need to be accommodated, which really isn't that much. Like almost everything we do is self-contained. We run like our own in-ear mixes. All of us have in-ears. We generally don't even need like stage monitors to be able to hear ourselves. Really, like all we need usually is just PA and like a soundboard that has enough spots for us to plug in all of our stuff and enough power outlets. A lot of times, like just when you're on a smaller level like we are, or just kind of like in this limbo stage of like, we're almost big enough to be on like big tours, but not quite. But like we're still doing like, you know, these smaller, I like to call them like the Z Market tours, little coffee shops and stuff like that. It just makes it a little harder to like really give the full experience of like watching us live. With that being the case, we were just kind of like, you know what, let's like take 2018 a little slower. Let's focus more on playing our hometown, and let's try and knock out some of the business stuff while we can, and try and make 2019, you know, as good as we can. So I think we've done a good job at achieving all of our goals so far. We'll see, you know, how the new record is received and all that stuff.
Well, then, I mean, that means that was going to be another one of my questions about the whole New Year thing. you always hear the new year, new me, the New Year's resolutions, but it seems like you guys are making pretty good on that. Like it's not a joke to you guys.
Yeah, definitely not, man. I mean, not that we're old by any means, but like all of us have been doing this for quite some time now. And at a certain point, it comes to like, all right, like we're either gonna hunker down and like we're gonna like make this happen, and it's going to work, or we just need to give up. And we kind of like sat down and had that talk a few times, honestly, and we were just like, what do we need to do? Like, doesn't seem like anything's working, whatever. And finally, we were just like, you know what? We're not fucking pussies, basically. So we're just gonna we're just gonna like do what we got to do and find a way to make it work. So I think we finally kind of tapped into that extra drive, you know, putting that last 20% to make it 120 to really kind of push ourselves to the next level. So it's coming up on that time to figure out if did what we needed to do and all that.
Well, you raise a good point. I'm glad, first of all, I'm glad that we're not seeing, you know, the end of Bloodline. I'm glad that you guys sat down and had that talk. And that's the thing that I always preach, because I'm actually a communications major. So like I always look at everybody. I'm like, you know what? At the root of every problem is that there's probably some lack of communication. If you just sat down and talk about things, everything would probably work out one way or another.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think it's crazy, honestly. Like Titus and I have always been in bands together. And him and I have been playing music together for about 10 years now. And Matt and I have been playing together for about 4 years. And same with Jake. I've been playing with him for about 4 years. Like with any other project that any of us has been involved in before Bloodline, that was the problem, was communication. Or, you know, you have like certain members who are scared to speak up, because inevitably in any band, there's always going to be one person who is more of the face or more of the leader, whether it's behind closed doors or in the public eye. For a lot of bands, that causes a situation where the other members may not want to speak up or voice their opinions or really know how to bring up their ideas or opinions in a non-confrontational way, which is why you see a lot of bands, you know, break up over creative differences or whatever. But that's definitely probably the number one thing about, like, best thing about being in Bloodline is just that all of us in our previous bands were the leader, each of us individually. Like when Titus and I were in our last band, it was both of us kind of like running the show. Jake's old band, he was the guy. I would say Matt is the guy for Bloodline, but Matt is like, has been the guy for any of his bands before. So just having like a solid group of people that are all individually good at being leaders, I think has really helped us when it comes to the communication, just because none of us are really scared to voice our opinions, and none of us take things personal when it does get a little heated. So it definitely is nice having that good streamlined communication without having to really like worry about people's feelings and stuff like that.
No, and you can tell that too. I mean, even just by following you guys on Twitter or like just listening to the music, there's not many bands who are like that, where you can see like it's a complete unit. Like you're one band. It's not, oh, here's, you know, the singer and his musicians, or the musician and their vocalist. Like there's you guys, there's Degrader, Kane Hill. Like you guys are definitely those people who you just listen to and you know, like these guys are one unit, they're one band, they're working together. Each of them contribute equally and just as greatly as the next.
I'm glad that's coming through then, because that's like been our goal since day one, really, or since we got boiled down. We used to be a 5-piece, but you know, we've been a 4-piece for about, like 3 years now. Pretty much since Titus joined, it's just been a 4-piece. And that was our goal though from the beginning. And I know for me specifically, with being in a band and, you know, being the vocalist and stuff, like I like doing vocals and I like being in a band and writing music, but I've never wanted to be the guy that's like, oh yeah, like, oh, I'm the vocalist, like all, you know what I mean? Like,
no, yeah, absolutely.
It's been my goal, like, especially with, you know, growing up with Titus and growing up with Jake, and I've known Matt the least amount of time, but even me and him have known each other about 5 years now. And, like those are my brothers, man. So I want the whole family to eat. It's always been my goal, you know, just to have even like music videos and stuff. Like it's a really subtle thing that we do, but all of our music videos has equal face time. Like I'm not getting any extra shots or anything like that. Like there's always equal face time between all 4 of us.
I've noticed that. You can see that. Not to cut you off, but in the Lifeless video, like you each get your face up on there. It's great. You guys are you're doing a great job. And I know what you mean. I know that, I know Titus takes care of some of the production. I know Matt, he's really great with sound engineering and everything. You've got the vocals and the lyrics. Jake's got the bass writing. Like you all, like I said, you guys are definitely a complete unit. You're doing a great job at it.
Hell yeah, yeah. I'm like I said, I'm really glad that comes through. That's been like our, if I had to give our band like a mission statement, I would say that's what our mission is to portray ourselves, or not even portray, since it's, it's reality, but is to show the outward expression of our band that the public sees. I want it to be directly representative of how we are behind closed doors. Just trying to be as real as possible, and like I don't go when we're out hanging out. Like I'm not like the guy like standing in front of everybody being like, oh, I got to be the attention. It's like all four of us, like I said, or like you said too. Just being a unit and working together for a common goal.
Yeah, man, you guys are doing great. I have one more question for you. We kind of got, a little heartfelt there, and I don't want to get too political or too serious, but I do have one question for you. Ready?
For sure.
All right. So I know you're a self-proclaimed weed wizard. I know you're a marijuana
yeah.
You're a marijuana advocate. So why do you think it should be legal nationwide, recreationally and medically?
That's a really good question, man. This to me, this is bigger than just weed. To me, it's just basic human rights, man. Like to me, it's inexcusable that the government should be allowed to tell me what I can and can't put in my body. I mean, like to a more extreme extent, like if somebody was like, oh, I want to go do heroin or I want to go do meth, like obviously that's a horrible choice and you shouldn't do that. But that's the thing, is you shouldn't do it. But I'm not your master, like, and nobody's your master. Nobody should have the power to tell you what you can and can't do. If your prerogative is that you want to go shoot heroin, or if your prerogative is that you want to go, smoke a bowl or smoke a joint, then so be it, man. Like, just
don't tread on me.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't, like, leave me alone and I'll leave you alone, kind of thing. So
absolutely.
That's just kind of how I feel about it. Obviously there are repercussions of certain things, like, I don't have any like solid stats to back this up, but I'm sure the common thought process is that if we were to allow people to, just do whatever they want or do whatever drugs they want, then, they might commit more crimes or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But, that's what we have police for. Like, if they're out committing crimes, and stop them. So,
right.
Yeah, it's all just ridiculous, especially with how if you look at the basis of how, like, drug enforcement got started, like, during the Nixon era, it's all just, it's just so ass backwards.
You got it, man. I know you got a hometown show tonight. You've given me some really amazing material, great conversation. I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I do kind of want to metaphorically give you the mic, and you have the time now to say whatever you want to say. If it's about the music, the new album, whatever you want to get out there, this is your time. Go for it, man.
Damn, badass. Well, shit. I guess keep an eye out for Bloodline, new CD coming out, full length. It's going to be coming out sometime in the next few months. New music video very, very soon. And also go check out the homies Afterlife. They just put out a new CD. Cane Hill is another group of homies that, I think they've got like 4 songs put out off their EP. They just put one out like last night or this morning or something, and it's so good. Anybody that's putting out music, if you fuck with it, then support it. If you don't, then ignore it.
All right, man. Fair enough. Thank you so much again for just giving me this amazing material and helping me with my project. I wish you the best of luck. I can't wait to hopefully catch you guys on tour, and you better believe I'll be listening to that new album whenever it drops. Thank you again, dude.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you.